Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Numar Khalid. But today is Friday, the 25th of July, 2025. These are the stories that we will try to understand and decipher during the course of the show. We'll begin with the situation in Gaza, where the number of casualties, those who are brutally murdered and massacred by the Israelis continues to rise. More than 59,000 have been killed. But at the same time, there is some positive news on the diplomatic front, where countries such as France have finally decided to accept diplomatically Palestine as a state. Now, France is the first G7 country to be formally accepting Palestine as a state. It will announce it in September in the United Nations session. What will this bode as far as the relationship of countries such as France with the US and other countries are concerned, and Israel, of course, is something that we will see. Speaking of which, the ceasefire is leading nowhere. In fact, Trump has called his delegation back home, which means that the ceasefire talks have more or less ended in a stalemate. Will there be any future for those talks also is what we will discuss in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns a statement by the Foreign Office that says that Kabul is being receptive to concerns over the Fitna al-Khawarij or TTP havens that are present within its territory, and this of course is a good sign, because all of these terrorist activities are happening from across the border, and we have ample proof of that, and we have given that ample proof to Afghanistan time and again. Two recent visits to Afghanistan by our Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, as well as our Minister for Interior, have been quite significant in that regard. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Narendra Modi, his Hindutva agenda, and increase in ethnic tensions in areas such as Assam and Nagaland, and how Narendra Modi's government is trying to use that to his benefit. And all that Narendra Modi has been doing is to create discord amongst the different races, amongst the different sects in there, and that is quite apparent by all that is happening within India. Will it be detrimental for him, or will it be a boon for him, because elections in Bihar are about to happen in a couple of months, is what we will discuss in our third story. Our fourth story concerns SpaceX. Yes, SpaceX, Elon Musk's SpaceX, whose Starlink has suffered one of its biggest international outages, and this is of course a huge thing for a company as huge as SpaceX or Starlink, because they are trying to put their branches everywhere, including in Pakistan as well. This gives a kind of a negative impression on how good or not they are, but let's see how they come across after this debacle. Finally, we're going to talk about pro wrestling legend Hulk Hogan, who has passed away at the age of 71, a huge name when it comes to pro wrestling, or WWE. He has been a part of the WWE Hall of Fame as well, and of course one of the most recognizable figures as well as pop culture and wrestling is concerned. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first story, and that concerns the situation in Gaza and the fact that France is going to become the first of the G7 countries to formally recognize Palestine as a state, and this will be done of course in September, but the announcement has been made by Emmanuel Macron in his statement on X. We've been joined by two guests to discuss that. And of course, a third guest will be joining us online. Let me introduce my guest in the studios. First of all, G. Abbasi Sahab, International Affairs Analyst, joins us in the studio. Also, Dr. Sundus Mustaqim, who is a Foreign Affairs expert and is becoming quite a regular at our shows. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahab, to have joined us as well. We'll also be joined by Usama Muhammad Nazal, who is a Palestinian journalist, will be joining us from Jenin shortly. We'll begin with you, Wajih Sahab, what is the significance of French President Emmanuel Macron's announcement to recognize Palestine? Do you feel this is going to shape political alignments within the G7 as far as their relationship with the Middle East is concerned?
I think not only the G7, the most particularly French action will be more conducive for the for the Palestinian recognition and the realization of the problems being faced by the Palestinian people in Europe itself. Because European countries, especially the Western Europe, the European community countries, they have been supporting Israel, or the Israel's
yes.
All actions since 1948 against the Palestinians, very one-sided manner. And the French decision in this regard will play a very huge role in changing that atmosphere. That atmosphere is already changing actually in Europe. You have seen statements in Britain, in Germany, and some other countries. They are supportive of the Palestinian cause. Now, if France recognizes, as the President has announced in September, that may induce some other countries in the European Union to follow France, and that may also induce other countries in the G7 to follow suit, and that will of course as long as the United States and Israel don't give space to the Palestinians and don't recognize their rights to a separate state, nothing is going to happen as such. But these actions by these powerful countries of the Western alliance, that will give a sort of inducement to the voters and to the people in the United States and Israel also, that because this problem is going on for the last 75 years. And it's not going to die down.
This chapter that has begun from the 7th of October 2023 is one of the most dark chapters in human history, if not the darkest. Now, Dr. Sundas Mustaqim, how could France's recognition of the Palestinian state impact the US and its allies? Because of course France has very strong relations with them, it is part of the EU as well. Considering their continued reluctance, I am talking of US and their allies, to extend similar recognition.
The Macron's decision finally, they are accepting and finally recognizing the Palestinian state. As you can see, 147 out of 193 US member states are already accepting or willing to accept the Palestinian state, and we see the Norway, the Britain and the Spain and so many countries are actually gaining the confidence and momentum in this international arena to support the Palestinian state. There are only two countries so far, US and Israel, those who are strongly and openly condemning. They're not only openly condemning this Macron's decision, but it seems that they are being isolated in the international arena, because these are the only two countries those who are openly condemning the state, and might be India might join them in this against giving this statements against the Palestinian, against the Gaza, because we can only expect this from India other than this USA and Israel, because India being, I would say, the country that always perpetrates terrorism or champions and false flag operation, and then these three countries can only go against a decision. But we can see that, as I said, more and more countries are gaining the confidence. So I'd say most of the countries in international arena are actually supporting and quite happy with this decision. And Saudi Arabia is called this decision a historic decision. Britain, Keir Starmer, is actually spoke very confidently, and even the non-European countries as well. So non-European countries and Western countries, I think the USA and the Israel are being the isolated countries in the international arena, and the left behind countries, I would say. The rest of the countries are actually supporting and openly supporting it. Even those who are neutral and silent are not even against the decision. They are just being silent or just being neutral with this decision. So let's see these neutral countries.
Maybe it's the beginning of a change as far as the whole point of view vis-a-vis Middle East, and these brutalities have been going on since around 2 years now, almost 2 years, might come to an end. I really truly hope so, because the situation is despicable, to say the least, from every angle, from a humanitarian angle, from an economic point of view, from a political point of view. This is the worst of times. That is the only thing I can say. Wajih Saab, Pakistan's Foreign Office takes a very strong statement as a reaction to the Knesset's decision to annex the occupied West Bank. And it says that, and I quote, Pakistan unequivocally condemns the Israeli parliament's unlawful attempt to assert sovereignty over the occupied West Bank. How important is Pakistan's statement in this regard, and how important has been Pakistan's stance regarding the whole Gaza conflict since October 2023?
Pakistan has always been very vocal, even before the establishment of Israel, for the cause of the Palestinian people, and after this annexation, after this occupation of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem by Israel in '67, Pakistan has always been in the forefront of the countries opposing condemning all the Israeli actions. And since October 7, Pakistan has always been calling, Pakistan has been on the forefront internationally in the United Nations and other forums to call an end to the Israeli acts in Gaza. But as far as this Western so-called annexation of the West Bank is concerned, that is totally against the canons of international law, because this is an occupied territory, and Israel has no right to annex it. And secondly, Israel has been a party to the Oslo Agreement, under which the Palestinian state was to be established in Gaza Strip and West Bank and the East Jerusalem as its capital. So Israel is bound by the international law to accept that agreement. So, that is no other state is going to accept that annexation. Even probably the United States itself will not in support of such a blatant violation of international law. And Israel, I don't think Israel will get much support on that in the international community.
But the fact is that Israel has been going on in whatever it has been doing in its various forms of brutalities in Gaza since the 7th of October 2023, and the whole world through the United Nations and other formats has tried to stop it, but to no avail. Will that stop finally come is what we all look forward to. More after the short break. Welcome back, and we're discussing the latest in Gaza, including the French President Emmanuel Macron, who has officially announced that France is going to accept and the state of Palestine officially, first G7 country to do so. Usama Mohammed Nazal joins us from Jenin. Thank you very much, Usama, to have joined us. I'd like to understand first of all, what is the future of the peace talks, because I'm not hearing any good news regarding that.
It is impossible in such very aggressive environment to talk about peace, as we saw how the Americans and the Israelis just yesterday withdrew from Doha negotiations, and they destroyed any possibility for stopping the Israeli genocide, including the Israeli starvation of the Palestinian citizens in the Gaza Strip. So when you have such aggressive team of negotiators like those, the Americans and the Israelis in Doha, it's impossible to talk even not about peace, even about calm or about a state of lull that would allow the people to have a loaf of bread and a can of water. So things are very dark, very gloomy. The situation is unbearable. Children, women, old men are dying not only of Israeli bombs, but of hunger, of starvation imposed by Israel and its allies on them, and nothing positive is happening.
In this atmosphere also, when you see a country like France formally accepting Palestine as a state, does that show any kind of a ray of hope for its future, or is it just a statement like any other?
This is, even if it is a statement, but I think it is very important, and this time comes from the top French official, the French president, and we know that there is going to be in New York conference that is organized and chaired by France and Saudi Arabia. So this statement comes days before the start of the events of this conference, and this is a very important shift in the policy of one of the main European powers, which is France. So we hope that this is going to translate into action on the ground, and other members of the European Union and of Europe as a continent are going to follow through and recognize the state of Palestine to fail the Israeli Zionist American policy, which is focused on failing and thwarting any potential for Palestinian statehood.
Usama, brother, the Knesset's decision to annex the occupied West Bank, how is this decision being received across Gaza, across Palestine, and across the world?
Of course, it was the formal decision by the Israeli Knesset of the steps that the Israeli occupation government has been conducting on their ground every day, because the number of the Israeli settlers is close now to 1 million in the West Bank and occupied Jerusalem. And we are talking about hundreds of settlements established and recognized by the Israeli occupation government, and hundreds others like outposts, colonial outposts, which are going to be recognized by the Israeli occupation government in the near future. So most of the West Bank is annexed de facto by Israel now. And as a Palestinian, if you try to move it from one city to another, you cannot unless you go through the roads leading to these settlements. And most of the time, these roads are closed. So Israel is formalizing apartheid in the occupied West Bank, Jerusalem, now by such a decision. But the West Bank is already, most of it, I can say, is annexed to Israel. So this step was just to formalize what the Israeli occupation has been doing for decades.
Also, Osama, I'd like to understand what are the Palestinians expecting from the world right now as we speak? I know food, water and basic health facilities are the prime concern because of the number of diseases that are rampant within Gaza, as well as the lack of food and water, and the more than 122 people who have died, including children who have died of starvation in the last few days alone. And not only that, also the reporters who are there from different agencies are also facing acute hunger and malnutrition. What is the expectation, and will the world come up to those expectations?
At every stage of the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, we used to say that what's happening is unimaginable and unbelievable. But what's happening today is much more than what we used to see in the past, as the people are dying of bombs and of starvation. All the international human rights organizations reports show that this situation has never been experienced or witnessed by a nation on a planet. We know that the starvation could spread because of a drought, because of natural disaster, but not man-made like what's happening now. It is Israel's made starvation in order to murder, to kill as many Palestinians as possible. The old people can't stand on their feet. The women can't breastfeed their babies. Babies are dying because of malnutrition and disease. And the world regrettably does not take what should be taken in order to end this humanitarian catastrophe. And the borders from all sides, without any exception, are closed. Gaza is now living in a cage, and this cage is designed to suffocate all its people. And we need to remember the statement issued by the American President Donald Trump just half an hour ago, blaming the Palestinian side for the failure of Doha negotiations yesterday. And he has like a threatening tone in his statement against Gaza. So things are unbearable, and we are talking about the human catastrophe caused by Israel and by the international official government's silence on that.
Thank you very much, Osama Mohammed Nasser, to have joined us. We wish you lots of strength, and all our fellow Gazans also lots of strength. We are with you. We'll continue to be by your side in whichever capacity we can. But the fact is that I really hope that things move for the better, that there is some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, that some sanity prevails at the end of the day. But all you people remain in our prayers and in our thoughts as well. Thank you very much, Brother Osama, to have joined us. Our second story, ladies, concerns Afghanistan. The Foreign Office takes out a statement on Thursday saying that the Afghan Taliban were showing receptivity to Pakistan's concerns over sanctuaries of the proscribed TTP or Fitna al-Kharij in Afghanistan, signaling cautious optimism on the progress of one of the most sensitive issues that have caused strains in the bilateral ties between the two countries. We continue to be joined by our two guests, Dr. Sundus Mustaqim and Wajih Abbasi Saab. My question to Wajih Saab is, what is the in your point of view, this recent resumption of top-level agreements between the Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban? There have been two visits, that of our Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar Sahab, and then of our Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi Sahab to Afghanistan recently. What does that signal about the future of bilateral ties? We also know that the trade agreement has recently been signed between both the sides as well. Are ties moving to a new direction? Is Afghanistan finally understanding that to move forward it has to cater to the thorny issues, including that of the TTP?
You use the word cautious optimism. So I would rather say, cautious pessimism.
All right.
Because Pakistan has always wanted very good relations with Afghanistan. Pakistan always wanted a peaceful, developing, prosperous Afghanistan. We always have very good intentions for Afghanistan and its people and all that. But the response from the Afghan side, and that unfortunately that's after the resumption of this Taliban government in 2021, has been quite negative. And they have been, the TTP and other terrorists working against Pakistan are using those weapons which were given to Afghan National Army by the United States, or left behind by the Americans. And now there are reports that most of those who are being apprehended in terrorist activities in different parts of Pakistan, especially the TTP, on the TTP side, they are of Afghan origin. They are not of Pakistan origin. So TTP is mostly depending now on the Afghan nationals for its terrorist activities in Pakistan. So the Afghan hand in the terrorist activities, or Taliban hand in Pakistani activities, is very strong. So we would hope that if there is some sort of understanding in Afghanistan, that they need to stop that type of their
intrusion into Pakistan, intrusion of nefarious elements such as the Fitna al-Kharij. Dr. Sundar Mustaqim, how significant is, as per the Foreign Office statement, the Taliban's receptivity to Pakistan's concerns over the Fitna al-Kharij or TTP sanctuaries inside Afghanistan?
Well, certainly it's a sigh of relief for both the countries. Since 2021, since the Taliban government took over the charge and the government, we have been facing so many problems in the name of good Taliban and the bad Taliban. We have been stuck between Talibanization. So after like 5 long years, it's certainly a sigh of relief. I think after the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar's visit in April to Afghanistan, that is this ray of hope, I would say. That
also Mohsin Naqvi Sahab
visited, yes. So these are our cream delegations have been visiting Afghanistan, both for logistic and trade, and to have that good bilateral ties between both the countries. So luckily, because the world knows that we are facing the fire at both ends, not only the Fitnatul Kharij from the Afghanistan side, Fitnatul Hindustan from the other side. So we have lost more countries than any other country in the whole world in the war against terrorism. Like more than 90,000 people have been died in Pakistan, and most of them were civilians. So world has already witnessed that Pakistan is like facing the fire from both ends. So let's wish and pray that this sigh of hope and relief will eventually bring something good for both the countries, not only on the terrorism ground, but for the trade, for as the both neighborly Muslim countries share the strong cultural, religious and geographical background. So we need to stand with Afghanistan and the Taliban government, but certainly with the good Taliban, not with the bad Taliban.
Well, I think there should be no demarcation between the good Taliban and bad Taliban. There should be just those who are working for the benefit of their country and for good bilateral relations, and those who are part of nefarious elements such as the TTP and others. Shazia Malik joins us on. Shazia, thank you very much to have joined us. Shazia, this statement that comes from the Foreign Office that says that finally there's a ray of light as far as the Afghan Taliban's government's efforts to maybe disarm or relocate TTP fighters is concerned. How do you see this willingness by the Afghan Taliban government? How cautiously optimistic or optimistic should we be?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Umar. Well, I am optimistic and I am a little pessimistic about this whole thing because India's footprints are really deep now in Afghanistan. And in fact, all these attacks of TTP on Pakistan from the Afghan soil, they were allegedly, of course, sponsored by what you call fitna khawarij, which I say India state-sponsored terrorists. So I'm not really very much sure if they are ready to, actually take very concrete steps against them. I mean, of course, maybe the government has now shown the resolution, but what about the TTP itself, who have deep linkages with the Indian intelligence agency, and they in fact have invested heavily in Afghanistan in the last few years. So if the Taliban and the Pakistan security forces break their backs for good, that is a good sign definitely for Pakistan. But if India keeps on pushing its money, and if its intent definitely is always to destabilize Pakistan, then I think the problem is not really going to just fizzle out just like that. But let's see if the Taliban government, if they have agreed and if they have promised that they are going to take care of this menace, that is a good step. However, like I just said in the beginning, I'm a little optimistic and pessimistic how this thing is going to.
Cautiously optimistic, to summarize it. All right, Wajih, China's influence has been quite important in order to kind of let Afghanistan know what is going wrong with the country, and kind of trying to bring them on the same page with Pakistan as far as their concerns are concerned. This dialogue between Afghanistan and Pakistan has been now going on since quite some time, and it's all started with the Chinese interference as well, particularly on cross-border security and counterterrorism. How effective has it been in your point of view?
Chinese influence in Afghanistan, if works in this way, that would be very effective. And secondly, China is the only country that can play its role in bringing Afghanistan to the negotiating table, and bringing Afghanistan to realize that they need to stop this inclusion of the terrorists from their territory and use of their territory against Pakistan. And secondly, to tell the Afghan authorities that India is not sort of any country that is working for the betterment of Afghanistan. India has never supported Afghanistan in its endeavor for its national sovereignty and its its independence and all that. India was the country that supported the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, and it supported the Russian installed government there. It was Pakistan that supported all along the Afghan endeavors for the the independence and the national sovereignty. So India is not sincere to them. India just wants to use Afghanistan and its territory against Pakistan. It wants to place to play card with Pakistan. Afghans should realize that their interests lie in Pakistan, not with India. And how many Afghan refugees over these four decades India has entertained. It was Pakistan which came to the Afghan support whenever they needed the support. And even today, Pakistan is supporting Afghan refugees here. Pakistan is supporting Afghan transit trade. Pakistan is supporting the Afghan government in all the manners. And Pakistan has come to the rescue of the Taliban when Taliban were in trouble, and when the Taliban government was installed, it was Pakistan that went to the international organizations to tell the people to support them, to let them work. So they should realize, and it's China which should make the Taliban realize that.
I think China's role has been quite important in making them realize, to the extent that they have realized now that they are talking of relocating the TTP or the fitna al-Khawarij fighters from where they are, the 3,000 to 4,000, is a step in the right direction, and I think credit also needs to go to China in that respect. Dr. Sundar Mustaqim, the Afghan Taliban in the past have constantly denied that they were giving safe havens, providing safe havens to the TTP or Fitna al-Khawarij. But now their stance has changed, and they say they want to relocate those 300,000 to 4,000 Fitna al-Khawarij fighters that are present in Afghanistan. How do these two statements reconcile? You remember whenever the Afghan Taliban used to be asked about what was happening in Pakistan, say this is Pakistan's internal matter. Many a times this has been said by the Afghan government. From there to here, when they say that now we will relocate those and we will move in the right direction, how do you see this change or this shift in their status or point of view?
It is no surprise for us or for the whole world. This is not surprising. We were expecting this shaking stance from the Taliban side, because we knew it very well that they are playing the double game with Pakistan. At the one side, apparently they are being the friends. They are trying to being the friends with Pakistan in front of the international arena, and at the back they were supporting, as the ma'am has just said, Fitnatul Hindustan, and they were perpetrating terrorism on Pakistan soil with the help of India. So we were expecting this, that sooner or later the Taliban's government, the real Taliban government, will recognize this thing, that this terrorists are actually curbing the peace and the border side situation between both the countries. So luckily they finally recognized that these are the terrorists, and it has nothing to do with Islam, it has nothing to do with Afghanistan or Pakistan. As I always say, terrorism has no religion and nationality, and
no boundary.
So one freedom fighter is someone else terrorist, and someone else terrorist is someone else freedom fighter. But these terrorists of the Fitnatul Khawarij has no religion and no nationality, neither Afghanistan or Pakistan. So finally they recognized this thing.
I really hope that this recognition is the beginning of all the constructive steps that the Afghan government, interim government, is going to take to at least remove such elements from their territory or prevent them from entering into Pakistani space. Shazia, I'd like to also understand, Pakistan, the Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Muttaqi is to come to Pakistan in the next couple of days or weeks for further follow-up talks in this very regard. Pakistan and Afghanistan have also signed a trade agreement very recently. They are talking of border management, they are talking logistics. Do you feel talks on trade or logistics or border management are a step to further prove to the Afghans that Pakistan is ready to stand by Afghanistan if the Afghans also stand by Pakistan and remove these miscreants from their soil?
Umar, do you see any change in the stance of Pakistan as such if this agreement is signed? No. Pakistan, from the very beginning, when even the Afghan war started, Pakistan was the only country standing by them. Pakistan had the largest number of refugees staying with them, to the extent that Pakistan damaged its own economy, helping them out. So Pakistan's stance has not changed. They have always helped Afghanistan. They have always taken care of their people. They have always wanted trade. And what is the big trade route between Afghanistan and any other country but Pakistan? So Pakistan has been very, very committed that it's going to take care of this issue. It is going to, have good trade relationships with Afghanistan. They are going to, take care of the Afghans staying in Pakistan and all that. It was Afghanistan that never really reciprocated. In fact, they have a huge tilt towards India. And India, like I said in my first round of talk, that they invested heavily over there. So they have been ignoring Pakistan's, brotherly and nice and good gestures over the years. And then all of a sudden, now that they find out that the whole world, because of Pakistan's good foreign policy, this issue is coming all over, that TTP is, operating from Afghanistan, and they are constantly creating problems for Pakistan. They are killing our civilians, innocent civilians. So now when they feel trapped, they think that they need to sit down. But there have been, agreements in the past as well. It's not really our political leadership. Our military leadership has been also visiting Afghanistan, telling them that there are problems at the border, and those need to be settled down. So all these talks, all these good gestures from Pakistan have been going on for quite some time now. But now it is the time for Afghanistan to actually recognize that, yes, they have been making efforts. It is our side that was not really doing anything at all, or not really serious about these relationships taking forward. With the new geopolitics now that is emerging, with India posing up more with the US, and China, Russia, Pakistan, and the Central Asian states coming closer, Afghanistan also must realize, and I think there must have been some sanity over there in their leadership, understanding that now this new bloc is their lifeline, and they really need to look at this. India is far off. So if they, remain...
Agreed. I agree on that. I agree on that, Shazia. But, the fact is, better late than never. I would just like to end this segment by saying better late than never. But we've talked, you have in your answers talked so much about India that I would like to begin my first question from the next segment that also concerns India and Narendra Modi's Hindutva, which is increasing ethnic tensions in areas such as Assam and Nagaland. And my first question goes to you again, Shazia, because you have been, pointing towards India in all my last questions as well. The Narendra Modi's Hindutva agenda, how has it contributed towards communal tensions across the Indian states now that it is being more apparent in even areas such as Nagaland and of course Assam?
I couldn't really understand your question, Umar. Can you please repeat it once again for me?
Yes. I was just saying that the Narendra Modi's Hindutva agenda, how is it affecting communal violence and ethnic tensions in areas such as Assam and Nagaland?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So this problem is not really so simple, Umar. It is not about just Assam and Nagaland. It is the whole of that north area. There are problems in Meghalaya. There is problem in Manipur. There is problem in Assam, and there is problem now in Nagaland. So what exactly has the chief minister of Assam has then done, Mr. Biswa Sarma? He has said that there was a big, forest land on which these people, made their homes, and they encroached that land, and that whole land has now got to go back to the forest area. However, the people living there have come up with their papers saying that they have been living in this, part of Assam for ages, since 1950s and maybe even beyond. But mostly the main things to, see over here are, number one, mostly the people who were evicted from here were Muslims, and the government agencies have been saying that these Muslims, they first, one person came and then they made their mosque and then they brought the whole village, but that's not the truth. If that was the problem, the Indian government from 1950s should have or would have, evicted this land. So mostly the Muslims, they are being evicted from there, and the Baswa government is saying that they are illegals and they have come from Bangladesh, but that also is not true. Now, when these people were evicted, they thought of going to Nagaland. Now, Nagaland doesn't want them to come also, because they also are following Mr. Modi's Hindutva policy, and they are saying we are going to break their legs if they try to enter in Nagaland, because they are all illegals. Now, same is the case with Meghalaya also. Now people are on high alert over there, and they are saying we are also not going to let these people come in our land. So in fact, the whole of North is in a turmoil at the moment, and it is because of the bad policies of Mr. Narendra Modi. As Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann also said that Mr. Modi is more interested in making the outside trips. He's going to the countries which only has perhaps 40 or 50,000, population, and he thinks that they are such important countries that he should be going there. Bhagwant Mann said that 50,000 people collect on our kabaddi match. So why doesn't he concentrate on his own country? Even Rahul Gandhi was extremely upset. He was in Assam and he said, Biswa government is evicting you from your areas, but look at his face, how fearful he is. And he knows once the Congress government comes, all you people are going to be settled back again. The situation is not only bad in Meghalaya and Mizoram and Manipur and Assam. The problems are in other parts of the India as well, like Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, when Rahul Gandhi was in Assam, PTP chief Mahmouda Mufti urged him that like the way you are talking for the Muslims in Assam, you need to talk about the Muslims of Jammu and Kashmir also, who are facing a lot of problems.
The Muslim, but we also need to talk about, Shazia, we need to talk about this communal violence that is gaining more and more ground in different areas, as you have very ably pointed out. Wajih Saab, this eviction policy of the BJP, that is nothing new, but it is creating more and more rifts within ethnic communities, within areas, within India. How is it going to affect not only intercommunal relations, for example, between Assam and Nagaland, but also India's stability as a whole amongst its communities?
You know, the BJP and the Hindutva policy from the very beginning is based on the hatred of Muslims. And Pakistan's hatred for them is just, you know, that's an extension of that. The hatred, basic policy is hatred towards the Muslims, and that has been their main stance, and that is what has gained them popularity among the people in India. It's basically, you know, it's the Hindu people in India, and they have created that extremist mindset, anti-Muslim extremist mindset among the Hindus in different areas of India, and that has been the basis of their expansion from the Hindi belt into these other parts of the Indian Union. Now that's what the policy they are carrying on in the northeast also, and Assam has been one of the area where, you know, there have historically been problems between the local Assamese and the Bengali speaking people, and those Bengali speaking people are you know, of Assami origin, because even before independence 30% of population of Assam was Muslims.
And you know, this is a deliberate attempt to, you know, create this rift and create this anti-Muslim sentiment more or less wherever the BJP government can. So, in this last question to you, this Assam crisis triggered by the BJP policies, which is making this a broader regional issue affecting the entire northeast of India, is it going to remain confined to the northeast?
No, not only the one region of the India, but the whole India, I would say, is in a self-destructive mode. Daily, India is not only the rape capital, but when it comes to minority violations, we can see the worst examples from Gujarat and Manipur. So India is not gaining its lesson, not only from being the rape capital of the world, not only from the Operation Sindoor. So all these things are now giving strong message to the whole world and showing the real face of the India as after Operation Sindoor. Now the Indians, their Rahul Gandhi, their opposition leader, I mean, their ex-army officers are saying that they're psychopaths in the Indian Air Force. So they're not gaining their lessons, and I think this is the last tenure of the Modi to play on Muslim cards, to play on the Pakistan card.
Let's see. I mean, there's so many questions, and you know, so many questions also remain on the stability of India itself and how the BJP government is doing everything not only to destabilize or trying to destabilize countries in its neighborhood, but also its own country, in its own communities. They need to introspect, and they need to introspect before it's way too late. Thank you very much, Dr. Sundas Mustaqim. Thank you very much, Wazir Abbasi. Thank you very much, Shazia, to have joined us, to have given us such a valid output as well from your end. It's a pleasure to talk to all three of you as always. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns SpaceX's Starlink that suffered one of its major outages very recently. This was a global outage, and this was because of the failure of the internal software services. Tens of thousands of people remained offline after this software failure for quite some time, and of course it did resume after 2.5 hours, but the fact remains that again, you know, people are very skeptical when it comes to anything that kind of, you know, does not stay stable, and let's see whether it impacts Starlink or whether it impacts SpaceX in the long run as well. Last story concerns pro wrestling legend Hulk Hogan, who has passed away at the age of 71. He made professional wrestling a global phenomenon, and he was known not only as a wrestling champion but also as a pop culture phenomenon. He has acted in so many films and so many different ads as well, and the fact is that he was a name to be reckoned with, and now he is no more. But of course, as they say, the legend lives on. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you on Monday with news story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Have a great weekend, but stay safe. Allah Hafiz.